This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. That you would take my place. That you would bear my cross. You laid down your life. That I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Who shakes the whole earth with holy thunder, who leaves us breathless in awe and wonder, the King of glory, the King above all kings, who rules the nations with truth and justice, shines like the sun in all of its brilliance, the King of glory, King above all kings. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. That you would take my place. That you would bear my cross. You laid down your life. That I would be set free. Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave, and worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy, 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 oh, this is amazing grace. This is unfailing love.
Yeah.
That you would take my place, that you would bear my cross. You laid down your life, that I would be set free. Oh, oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Oh, oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Oh, oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me.
Well, good evening, church. Good evening. Good evening, church. Good evening. Great to see everyone here. Welcome to Christ the King Lutheran Church for this very special night of fundraising and fellowship. Gosh, it's just great to be together. This event was supposed to happen 2.5 years ago. And in fact, if you got a wine glass, we're still celebrating the birthdays that would have happened in 2020. So congratulations to all of you who turned those ages. It's great to be here. My name's Pastor Daniel. I'm one of the pastors here at Christ the King, and I'll be moderating along with my friend, Pastor Marissa Cary from the Fund for Leaders of the ELCA. You'll see us. We're going to do 3 different panels tonight. We've got a lot of really great content for you to hear about these wonderful ministries, and we're excited to share that with you. But first, caprese salad that you have on your table, and Bishop Tim is going to bless our food. Come on up, Bishop Tim.
Good evening. Pastor Daniel, so just a clarification, this is not my birthday party? Oh, Oh, okay. Yeah. No, that actually was going to be like a big deal. This is supposed to have been 2 years ago, and at that time we were going to focus on the international women's scholarships, and we did. But when Sandra Klein was 70 and Bishop Eaton was 65 and I was 60, we were all going to give a corresponding amount of money to kind of put that in and launch that. So anyway, we're glad that you're here, and we're going to be talking about other things that the ELCA does. We so appreciate your being here, and we're honored to have Bishop Eaton with us. So let's pray. Gracious God, we are so very grateful that not only you call us and claim us into ministry as your precious children made in your image, certainly as individuals, but most of all as you call us in relationship with each other, with the world. And so we're thankful for the partnerships we share, for the ways that we're stronger together in a church than we can be by ourselves as individuals or congregations and communities. So thank you for the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, for our presiding bishop, and for all the folks that work in that church-wide expression, for the synodical expression of the church, for the congregations, including Christ the King, hosting us tonight, and all the ministries that we'll be talking about. Help us, as we learn more, to be supportive in the way that we are part of this church together, translating into servanthood for the sake of the world. Bless the food we share and our time together with each other. In Christ's name, amen.
So now that the food has been blessed, you can feel free to start with your salad course as we begin our program. That's the way we're going to keep the night moving along. So please feel free to eat while I add just a few words of welcome, and then we will bring up our first panel. So again, welcome tonight. Thank you so much to Christ the King, our wonderful hosts. We'll have many opportunities to give them a round of applause and thank them for the wonderful service that they are doing. And it really is such an honor and a joy and so exciting to see this many people here tonight, finally, after we've been planning for, as we've heard, many years for such a special gathering and for Bishop Eaton to be with us. So you're going to hear about 3 ministries this evening of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, and some of you will be familiar with maybe 1 or 2 of them. Some of you might be familiar with all of them, and they might be new to some of you, which is great. You'll learn a lot tonight. Those 3 ministries really are so key to the future of our church, and I think that's going to become clear tonight. The first is Young Adults in Global Mission, which you'll hear from first. Then we'll have the main course of our meal. Then you'll hear about Fun for Leaders, and finally, ELCA World Hunger. And the point is that none of our congregations could do this alone, have this big of an impact on the church and in our communities. We couldn't do it alone, but together we can make a tremendous impact. And so in light of all of that, we have a pretty audacious goal tonight. We're hoping to raise $30,000, $10,000 each for these outstanding ministries. And we really hope that you feel leaving inspired by what you've heard and excited to support it and also share the stories with people in your congregations. So thank you so much again for coming. And we're actually going to welcome our first panel. So Pastor Daniel's going to come up and introduce them, and we'll get started.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you, Marissa. Our first panel tonight is of YAGMs. If you don't know what a YAGM is, it's a Young Adult in Global Mission. These are folks who dedicate a year of their life, and they travel someplace far away in order to bring the gospel there and to appreciate that culture Oftentimes this happens when you're a young adult, so maybe there's a gap year in college or the year right after college. We are blessed to have two Yagams here tonight who are going to share their experience. And so we're going to invite this first panel to come on up. Hope and Maddie. Hope did her Yagam year in Australia, and Maddie did hers in Mexico City. And Bishop Eaton has some opinions about Yagam as well. So we're going to have her join this panel with us. Good.
Do you ask questions, or how do we?
Yep,
Okay.
it's in the script.
Oh, that's right, the script that I have on the stage over there. Carry on, Pastor Pugh.
We're going to start with Hope. Hope, why don't you tell us about your year of a Yagam? What was the year? Where did you go? And how did it go?
Wow, so very loaded question to put that all in 3 minutes, but I'll do my best. So I'm from New Bern, North Carolina, and so my supporting church was St. Andrew. And I went to Central Australia, which is about 16 hours in either direction from the nearest city. And I lived in a boarding school for Aboriginal students with another Yagam. And so she worked at the boarding school, and I worked in town. So something about me that's a little different than the typical Yagam is I came from corporate America. So I'd already graduated from school. I've been working at Lenovo. I quit my job to do Yagam. They ended up giving me a year off, and so I'm actually still at Lenovo now 4 or 5 years later. And so I was like, all right, guys, where are you going to put me? Like, I am not a teacher. I'm not going into seminary. Like, I'm corporate America. They put me at a financial advocacy place where they help advocate for Aboriginal people. So their culture is a lot different than ours. And so, we work with them to, advocate for them financially. I also worked at the church, and I was involved in music there. A big part about Aboriginal culture, which I can't, if I'm talking about Yagam, I have to talk about Aboriginal culture, is feeling their spirit. So, here we say, hi, how are you? We meet people right away. But there, you want to listen. You want to let them feel your spirit, let them get to know you for a couple months, and then, you'll begin to develop those relationships. So a big part of Yagam is developing relationships with, the greater church in the world. So the people that I developed relationships with ended up being, my mentors and, supervisors there that I'm still incredibly, incredibly close to. It was an amazing community. When you're a young adult, far away from home, it can be challenging. There are ups and downs. But when you have a community like that you're thrust into, it's I can't even explain the relationships, the level of closeness I developed with those people that year. And so I still have a lot of lifelong friends from that year. I really appreciate culture so much more, and they appreciated the ability to, for my job, to let me go for a year. They were very appreciative of that, and I know they would want everyone to learn a little bit more about Aboriginal culture, from my year, and kind of share the message of Central Australia and letting people feel your spirit in a positive way. So thank you.
Hope, just one follow-up question, because you and I have talked about this. What's it like coming back after being at Yagam for a year?
It's tough.
It's very hard, especially when my job gave me exactly a year. So I was expected to go from wearing the same outfit every day, same shoes, very simple life. Live simple is a big Yagam focus. You're on a very limited budget, to corporate America within 2 weeks. It was a very challenging time. But again, I just thought about those communities and the relationships I developed. My mentor there said, well, Hope, you did Yagam for a year. You learned about what that was like. Now it's time for you to learn more about what this is like and then figure out where you're going to go from there. So still learning about that.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing your story, Hope. We appreciate it. Well, the day that, or more or less the day that Hope went to Australia, Maddie was coming back, right? Because you were exactly the year before her.
Yes.
Maddie, tell us about your experience in Mexico City.
So I served with the YAGM Mexico program, which I believe is the second oldest country program in YAGM. I was in Mexico City, the capital city, and I was working at the Center for Ecumenical Studies, which is a nonprofit in the city that was co-founded in the 60s by a Mexican Catholic priest and a German Lutheran pastor. So it was really cool to be in a place that had that Lutheran history in it, and the center does incredible work throughout the entire country of Mexico. I was working on the land defense team, so working with folks who traveled through the states of Oaxaca and Puebla, going to predominantly Catholic, predominantly indigenous communities that, well, in some cases, whose land was being targeted by international companies looking at what does it mean to be stewards of the environment through a theological lens. And it was just the most incredible experience to work in that organization and learn from my colleagues. And YAGM Mexico is a little different of a program in that you are not placed with a Lutheran church. However, being in the city, I was able to connect with the Lutheran Church of the Good Shepherd, which is a church that was founded 60, 70 years ago, originally to serve predominantly U.S. and German expatriates who were living in Mexico City, but over the years has evolved to become about 50% Mexican, 50% non-Mexican. So to be able to be in a church with folks from El Salvador, Portugal, Germany, and other parts of the world was absolutely incredible. Another unique part of the Mexico program is that all volunteers live with a host family. And my host family was a little unique in that I lived with a young gay couple, Neff and Danny, who are now in their late 30s, early 40s. So it was a really fun mix of older brother / uncle / friends. And I've been very fortunate in that because it is a little easier to get to Mexico City than Australia. I've been able to go back to visit twice now, and I'm very blessed to continue to stay in contact with my friends and was just welcomed by the most beautiful community. And I'm just so grateful for my time there and to be able to stay in touch and be able to keep going back as long as they'll have me.
Maddie, you lived with a couple late 30s, early 40s, and then you came and lived with Marissa and Ben, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm noticing a little bit of a trend there. Yeah.
Yep. God has provided in so many ways with so many wonderful people.
Yeah, that was the follow-up question I'm thinking of, similar to Hope's, which is it's hard to come back. How has YAGM changed you? And surely spending that time away does something to your soul, as Hope was saying.
Oh my gosh. I think it just really redefined what hospitality means. I arrived in Mexico City in September 2016. So it was an interesting time to be a U.S. citizen in Mexico, just with what was going on politically. And I was just blown away by the warmth I was received with. The people didn't care, where I'd gone to school. They didn't care what I was planning to do career-wise. This idea of accompaniment, which is so central to YAGM, is something that is so baked into Latin American theology, Latin American culture. And and it just really redefined my idea of what it means to welcome the stranger, to bring someone in who looks different, talks different, doesn't speak the language perfectly, has an accent. And after YAGM, I came back to the Triangle area and worked at a domestic violence agency for a few years. And it was amazing to be able to support our clients, specifically our Latina clients, many of whom were from Mexico, and to be able to say, I was there for a time having a greater cultural understanding and trying to show hospitality that I received to immigrants in our community.
And these stories are just so inspirational. It's just really neat that you were able to give so much of yourself and then also receive from it. We often say whenever we go make visits, we feel like we got more out of it than we put in. Well, that's just really meaningful work. Bishop Eaton, obviously this is something that the ELCA has been doing for a while, this young adult and global ministry sort of idea. What is it that you would say are the benefits from this ministry for both the individuals and culture and the church?
Well, as we've heard already, people are encountering Lutheran churches in places where no one ever expected that there would be a Lutheran church. Maybe Australia, that could be, but not amongst the Aboriginal folks. But in Mexico, there's a Lutheran church. There's a Lutheran congregation in Dublin, Ireland. So just to let you know. So to see that for us, I think it's important for us to understand that this is not what Lutheranism looks like throughout the world. Most Lutherans in the world are people of color, and that's where the church is growing. And the accompaniment, that's an extremely important concept for us. And I think Rafael Malpica Padilla, who is your executive for, now we call it Service and Justice, but he was helping to develop this concept. We're not just sending missionaries over there. I mean, I had some folks, my former synod was Northeastern Ohio, and our companion was the Northern Diocese of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Southern Africa. And these folks, they wanted to come, and they said, well, aren't we going to go into the bush? I said, South Africa has better road system than we do in a lot of places, just to say. And they don't have the thaw and frosting things going on. But what, I think, I don't know if you, if Jim Gonya was one of your advisors before you went into this. He's more recent. Anyways, he says, don't bring God where God already is. And so this has been, and you can speak to your experience. You're on the West Bank, taught me how to do a kafia, which was not successful because I'm not good at it. But this sense, of how we used to do missions was somehow we would send sort of the rich, prosperous, white people over to help these benighted poor folks who, and it's like, that's not it anymore. And in fact, we hear from these churches which are growing, especially in the global South, but in other places, we're learning, and their spirituality is deeply Lutheran, but it's deeply also contextual and something that we just aren't used to. But it doesn't mean that's not the Spirit working through these folks and touching us, which is important. Now, personally, I have benefited greatly from the YAGM program. My daughter was a YAGM in Bath, England. So that's the oldest program, Time for God, there. And you wonder, like, I said, well, Becca, what are you doing? Don't you just, watch Pride and Prejudice and drink tea? And what, I mean, and she said when she was there, only 5% of the country had any ongoing affiliation with any kind of religious faith community, Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, Muslim, Jewish. So that's changing now in England. So then she had a chance to work there. She worked with the Boys and Girls Choir at Bath Abbey, but then also worked in people experiencing homelessness, a couple of places there in Bath. But then Michael, her now husband, was a young adult global mission in Soweto, South Africa, working in an AIDS ministry. Because it's been a devastating disease in South Africa and other places. And it's not just a gay disease, which we know now. That was how it was portrayed for us, but that's not how it is around the world. And so Michael worked there. But they met during orientation, and now they have presented me with my second grandson.
Whoa.
So but I can say, we hear, corporate America. I'm really impressed with that. Becca she was out of college for a year, and Michael was too. But we know that this has been a great leadership development program, and that it used to be, we had to take a hiatus during the pandemic. But it's 30% of folks who participated in the YAGM program would consider seminary. And I'm happy that 70% did, but now we're taking that experience and bringing it to corporate America and other places, which is so, so important. So it's a marvelous program. We're starting it up again. We're not in Australia. Are we still in Mexico?
Not this year.
No, we're not this year. We're trying to start it up again. The pandemic really took a toll, not only trying to get folks to go over there, but these countries, they couldn't accept people because they didn't want to get our diseases, or they were still working on inoculation. So we're starting this over. It's a critical program because my son-in-law, dear Michael, grew up in the Pacific Northwest, and he said, here I was, plucked up, upper middle class white kid and placed in the middle of this community in Soweto, South Africa. I never would have experienced that and learned about the Lutheran tradition there and had my own faith strengthened, nor would they have ever seen me if there hadn't been a program like this. So I'm making a really shameless commercial right here, okay? The YAGM program has been just bedrock. We're trying to gear it up again. I think at its height, we were in like 14 countries. So just amazing experiences for our young folks. And as we understand in the accompaniment model, we receive and learn as much as we think we're giving. So that's just, I don't know if you want to join the panel, you can talk about your year. Okay, I won't pick on you, sorry. Except for I really did. So, okay.
That was actually my next question is, raise your hand if you are a YAGM, if you've done other YAGM work, and
Yes, family members.
and if you have family members who've done it. Yeah.
Excellent.
All of you, I suspect, would recommend it. Yeah. Our last question for you lovely young ladies is, what would you say this program needs now, right? I mean, COVID took away many of those sites. We weren't going places, we weren't doing things, and now it's a little precarious. Like a lot of things in the pandemic, it's one of the things that we're concerned, how is it going to come back? What's it going to look like? Is it going to be different? What do you think that it needs going forward, and are you hoping to see it regain its status in the ELCA?
I think in addition to financial support, just continuing prayer, not just for the folks here in the U.S. who are alum or who are thinking about participating, and not even just for the volunteers who are there now, but also for the partner communities. I think about my church, Mexico City, and how it's been really impacted by COVID, and so many places in the world are still struggling to get vaccines, still struggling to get back to a sense of normalcy. So thinking beyond just our reality. And I think just continuing to encourage young people in your life to think about it. I know it was because of Michael Dixon coming to talk at LCM and other people I knew personally who had done the program that encouraged me to think I can do this too. And so I think that personal nudge or sense of support can make a huge difference and can end up changing people's lives.
I also remember Michael talking, so that was just echoing what Maddie said. I can't agree more. Just like what I said about like during the year, my church had never had a YAGM. It's a very older congregation. So when I went, there were people that were praying for me, and I could feel that. There were like hard times in my life and challenges, homesickness. I'm very much a homebody person. I wasn't homesick at all, and I really think that's because of prayer and the support that I got. All the emails that I sent, connect with like a YAGM. They send out monthly newsletters. They're always interesting to read, and you can support them. My church supported me, and it really helped, change my life. It was the best year of my life, and I mean, I definitely can't imagine my life without it. So,
and the YAGM participants have to raise. When Becca and Michael were going through, it was $4,000. I think it was up to $5,000 a year.
Yeah, it's $5,000. So the total cost, I think, was when I went, was about $15,000, and they asked each volunteer to raise $5,000. My dad is a fundraising dynamo minister, so I didn't have much of a problem, but a lot of people are tasked, with that, and they want to make sure that we're supporting that. It's, it's costly to do that, but also the volunteers. I mean, I was living on $110 a month, so we're asked to live simply, and it is a good thing for us to also exercise as well, like living simply in our life while we were there, and then continuing some of those traditions when we come back.
Wow. That's a lot of bang for your buck, right? For people who give to YAGM, you live on $110 a month. That's
Australian dollars.
Australian dollars.
That's like 99
Yeah.
US dollars.
That's really incredible. Let's thank our panelists for being up here. We're going to take a break for about 20 minutes to let you enjoy your main course as it gets brought out to you. And we've got some lovely live music from Justin and Jess, so enjoy.
There's a song in my soul, and I feel it stirring in me. This I know for sure, that your love is like a flood, and your mercy never ending. I give my song to you. There's a joy in my soul, and it rises like the morning. This I know for sure, that your grace is enough, and your promise never breaking. I give my song to you. All of your goodness is like a well running over. Oh, my soul, it sings for you. For all of your goodness, I will love you forever. All my songs I sing for you. Yes, all my songs I sing for you.
There's a hope in my heart, burning bright in the darkness. This I know for sure, that I will look upon your face, forever dwell in your presence, and always sing to you.
And all of your goodness is like a well running over. Oh, my soul, it sings for you. For all of your goodness, I will love you forever. All my songs I sing for you. Yes, all my songs I sing for you. Let my life be to you a symphony, singing out holy, holy. In all my days, every single breath I breathe, singing out holy, holy. Let my life be to you a symphony, singing out holy, holy, yeah. And all my days, every single breath I breathe, singing out holy, you are holy. For all of your goodness is like a well running over. Oh, my soul, it sings for you. All of your goodness, I will love you forever. Oh, my songs I sing for you. Yes, all my songs I sing for you. Yeah, all my songs I sing for you.
The young adults that join this program, they're smart. You know, they've known in their head that they can't change the world, but they really actually still want to change the world. And it was really hard for Thad.
My name is Thad Tietze, and I served in Gudok-Salish, Hungary. I was actually very much wanting to keep faith at an arm's length throughout the year. Faith very quickly just walked up and punched me in the gut. The community that I was serving and the congregation I was working with have a very different outlook on faith than what I had come from in my personal history. We learned to live with the differences and find ways to connect beyond the things that were dividing us.
Bevésődött annyira, mint a saját gyerekünk lett volna, és nagyon hiányzik. International contacts are very important. Our culture is different, our tradition is different, but if we learn how people can express their faith under different circumstances, it can be a very enriching experience for all of us.
A typical day in Goethe Salish, I would have breakfast with my host family, I would walk 10 minutes to the children's house, I would play with them, we would have a meal together, we would have some sort of activity which would give them something they could create and be proud of. He became, in a small way, part of a village and carries that village with him now. I, throughout this, had really a wealth of time to myself and just simply with others that was unstructured that I had never experienced before. That all of a sudden just breathes new life into how you think about where your feet are positioned in the world and how that affects your perspective. The solitude also lends itself to each day kind of recommitting yourself to how will I use this day? Now that I'm back in the United States, you get so caught up in kind of the mundane little things and you don't step back and say, what are we actually doing here? That's why I think living in the village of about 250 people ended up being a beautiful part of the year. We were able to get to know each other, informed by all of these things that are happening around us, but we nonetheless were able to partition those things off and just focus on living our lives in that small piece of the earth. We are all suffering in lots of different ways, and we're all in communities that are facing suffering, and somehow in the middle of that, Christ is raising us up to new life, not individually, but raising us up together. And that's how we keep moving forward.
Don't we dance anymore? I'm not okay with that. Why don't we laugh anymore? I'm not okay with that. 'Cause the years go by like stones under rushing water. We only know when it's gone. Yeah, years go by like stones under rushing water. We only know when it's gone.
Why don't we laugh anymore? don't we dance slowly? I'm not okay with that. 'Cause the years go by like stones on rushing water. We only know when it's gone. Yeah, the years go by like stones on rushing water. We only know when
Marvin Titterud writes, Neshimes, thank you, Shara, for keeping us up to date. Having 2 little ones is a big job, so it's good to hear that you are making good use of your talents and working with at-risk youth. We stay busy doing nothing. My wife is 90 and I am 88. I just got a new car and a smartphone, so I am busy with those. Thank you again for remembering us, and God bless you both, Marv and Dorothy Titterud. I would just like to say that the relationship that Fund for Leaders has given me with Marvin has been so special, and that his generosity is more than just paying for my seminary education. It was really him saying in so many ways that I could be a leader in the church.
That's how it had always been done, and that had worked well, but the economics were changing. We had to come up with new ways to do it. And we had the idea, I think it was originally, that congregations would maybe contribute to a central fund for scholarships for students at all the seminaries. And then we decided maybe we need to even go closer to the ground than that and deal with individuals who have a passion, who always want for there to be pastors. They may not have a connection to an individual seminary. They may not even know exactly what a seminary is, but they know they always want there to be pastors and other leaders of the church. And it's the kind of thing that they would respond to philanthropically. So that turned out to be a good idea.
I think Fund for Leaders is unique, and that it is not the educational institution that funds your time in seminary. It is the denomination. And that, it says a lot about the institution's investment in leaders. It says a lot about the ELCA's investment in people who have been doing all kinds of ministry before they get to seminary.
I'll be honest, without the Fund for Leaders Seminary scholarship, I would not have become a pastor. That allowed me to do the thing that I thought God was calling me to, and to do what I am passionate and something that I love.
I am living out my call for the sake of the world because the church said yes to me.
Years later down the road, if somebody's watching this and says, look, there's a Native American female that was identified that year, and look what she's done over the past however many years with the ELCA, I could be that person. And I'm really hoping that the person that does watch that is a Native American or another person of color that gets inspired by my story.
What prevailed was a sense that theological education is kind of foundational to whatever else we're going to do. Yes, we need missionaries. Yes, we need campus pastors. Yes, we need people doing justice work. But we need a way to prepare them. We need a way to identify them and to form them and to keep them connected to the church. So many other things depended on a stream of well-prepared leaders.
When we support leaders financially, when we launch them into their first call debt-free, when we put the weight of the whole church behind them and say, you are called, we are setting people up for success.
In the name of
Hello again, everyone. Keep eating, keep enjoying yourselves. I hate to break up all of the good conversation, but I'm going to anyway, because otherwise we would be here all night, right? And we promised you an early evening. I'd like to welcome, and first of all, thank you to our musicians. Round of applause. One of whom is coming over to be on our panel. So our panelists, this is the Fun for Leaders panel. My name is Marissa Cary. I am the director of the ELCA Fun for Leaders. And here with me tonight, we have Dr. Sylvia Black, who many of you all know from her work on the candidacy committee in North Carolina. And she is on my Fun for Leaders leadership table, which is a wonderful gift. We have Pastor Emily Norris, who is pastor at the Dwelling in Winston-Salem, and she's going to have a couple opportunities to tell you about that tonight. And we have Justin Monty, who was playing wonderful music for us, who is a current student at Luther Seminary and also here on staff at Christ the King. So thank you all for coming tonight. So first to Emily and Justin, tell everyone in the room what it was like when you first started hearing that call from God to go to seminary.
You got this one? I moved across the country. I was in Iowa, and I had applied to seminary. I knew that I knew I was supposed to, but I wasn't certain what that looked like. And so I moved from Iowa to North Carolina, and then I decided I wasn't going anymore. So when I first heard that call, I said, no, thank you, I'll move east instead. It took about 3 or 4 more years before I finally started to pay attention again. But in those years in my life, I think I had a lot of discerning to do to figure out what that was going to actually look like. And the big thing for me was that even though the traditional congregation had loved me so well and formed me so well and had walked with me through youth group and youth gatherings and mission trips, and I had been serving in congregational ministry at that point for about 14 years, when I thought about being a pastor and standing up and turning around and holding my hands the right way and saying the right words and singing the liturgy, I could not find that in myself. And so finally I had someone say to me, but Emily, the church needs you not to be that pastor. And I said, well, somebody should have said that earlier. And so I dove in, and I was still in the process of figuring that out all through candidacy and all through seminary. And it really wasn't until right about the fall, late fall, early winter of my final year where it finally clicked and we figured out what that was going to actually look like. And I'm still discerning what that looks like as a leader in this church.
And what about you, Justin?
Yeah, I get to follow Pastor Emily. This is great. I credit the discernment process to the people around me, the people that saw what I couldn't see in myself. I credit Mark Glazer, who was the music minister at Christ Lutheran Church in Charlotte back in 2014 when I worked at the church there for a summer, and he planted the seed and said, I think you would be a wonderful pastor. And I said, thank you very much, Mark, but I'm going to go to NC State and be an engineer. And it was not supposed to happen. And I did 3 years of engineering, and it was the one and only time about a year into my job that I felt God actually speak and say, now go. Now it's your turn to go out and make disciples. Whatever that means. If anyone can tell me what that means, I'd really appreciate that. I'm still figuring it out. But I always thought that a call process was something that was so sure. You would be so confident after this call from God, and instead it was 99% questions and 1% certainty as to what was next. And I credit all the people around me for seeing that spark in me that God pushed and led me into seminary and into ministry. So I'm really thankful for that.
And so as a follow-up question to that, in the midst of this huge life-changing decision where, right, as you said, like 1% certainty, 99% question, what does it mean to have scholarship assistance from the Fund for Leaders and from your seminary to take on this endeavor?
I can go first.
You go first.
Yeah. It means everything to me. Like I said, I graduated NC State with $65,000 of student loans. Student loans are a really big issue in our country right now. I don't know if anyone has heard that news, but there are trillions of dollars of student debt. And when I got this call, my wife and I were talking in the car on the way here. I was like, how am I supposed to talk about this? I get this call from God, and yet I feel like I can't go because I can't afford seminary. Mm-hmm. And then I credit Fund for Leaders that I received here in the state of North Carolina. I credit the Jubilee Scholarship at Luther Seminary. I credit all the Senate help that they give to their candidates who are just trying to go through this process. Without that, I wouldn't have been able to go into seminary and fulfill this call. It would have been years down the road, and who knows what would have happened after that. And because of the financial assistance that I received, it really is everything, because I was able to pay my student loans. And now I can say I'm going to graduate debt-free, which I'm so thankful for. But that only happens because of the scholarships that are given.
Now I get to follow Justin. Not to one-up you, buddy, but I graduated undergrad with $90,000. Hey. I mean, similar story. I would not have been able to do seminary if I hadn't received the scholarship. But I think where I feel it more so is now actually on the back end. As a mission developer, every single part of our budget is synod grants, church-wide grants, and other grants that you have to go and hustle and chase. And so we, at the Dwelling, we have never passed an offering plate, and we never will. because our congregation and our folks there, the minute we do that, we put someone on the outside. And so for me, I don't get paid necessarily what I should, right? And I know that going into it because that's the ministry I'm called to, and it's the ministry that I love. But it also means that because I did graduate seminary without debt, that's one less thing that I have to think of that allows me to then live into this call that the world so desperately needs. So for me, it's been an affirmation on the back end too, and has really unlocked my ability to be present in the places that God is calling me to serve.
Amen. And so we've already heard 2 stories right there, Sylvia, but just tell everyone tonight a little bit about what it's like to be on the candidacy committee and those hard conversations that you have to have with students about financial realities.
Well, thank you, Marissa. And first of all, I want to say I'm proud to be on this panel with these 2 young people because I feel like they're mine.
We are.
It is sometimes agonizing to be on a candidacy committee and have to say to a candidate, we don't think perhaps you're ready to go to seminary because you have too much debt already. And we've had people come who had as much as a $200,000 worth of debt coming out of their undergraduate experience and others. And that does not include mortgages. That's literally college debt. And so as a candidacy committee, we have to think about whether or not it is responsible of us to be able to say to someone, yes, it's time, you can go to seminary, but you need to recognize that you will incur additional debt. Many of our seminaries now are granting full tuition, but that's just part of the story. Every seminary student has to live, and that full tuition may cover tuition and fees, but it does not cover all of their living expenses. And so without something like Fund for Leaders and some of the other resources that Justin and Emily have held up, they would come out of seminary with additional debt. And let's be frank, many of our first-term pastors don't make enough money to begin to even pay that debt back. And so they're really kind of crippled. And so Fund for Leaders is a wonderful way that we, as our Lutheran body, can help those people who want to go to seminary, who will be serving us when they get out of seminary. The other thing to think about, too, is that many of our seminarians now are second career people. And so not only are they going to seminary, they're giving up that job that they had, but they also have a family that they have to support as well. And so if they don't have enough savings, they also have to figure out, well, how am I going to do this? And quite frankly, we don't encourage people to go go to seminary and have to have 2 or 3 extra jobs, because we think that part of what makes the seminary experience is to be able to really focus on their coursework, but also focus on community and being a part of the community. And so we are blessed in the ELCA to have Fund for Leaders that helps support as many seminarians as we possibly can.
Thank you. So last question is for Emily and Justin. One of the things that you do as church leaders is kind of pass on what happened to you, right? People nurtured your call, and you nurture the calls of other people. And so how would you feel doing that if there wasn't something like Fund for Leaders available for them? Would you feel able to even encourage other people to listen to the call and to pursue seminary and public ministry?
The congregation that I serve is made up of folks that are currently or have lived the experience of homelessness. And I will tell you that in that community, there are profound gifts for ministry and a deep understanding of the living gospel and a witness to the faithfulness of Christ and a way to tell that story that other people cannot. And so there are people in my congregation, in my community, that would be incredible leaders in this church. And so having the Fund for Leaders to be able to point to them and say, we've got some hurdles that we need to jump through together. But on the other side of that, there's hope for seminary. There's hope for ordination. There's hope to be a minister in this church. That I think, yes, it builds our church, but more than anything, it plants hope in people as well. And I feel comfortable being able to point to that to my community because it doesn't feel empty, right? It's something that I can truly and faithfully say, let's walk this together and let's build together and let's grow. And if you hit that point where you're still feeling that, there's options for you with this.
Yeah, I just want to echo what you're saying. I feel like I would actually feel uncertain about telling someone to go the route of ministry if they had debt and a difficult path ahead of them. And Pastor Emily, what you were just saying, I think that the Fund for Leaders Scholarship, all these other scholarships, is the ELCA basically telling these seminarians, we will walk alongside you, we will help you. I just did my endorsement interview, so we talked about the wholeness wheel. The financial section is such a crucial part of it. Does that help me for my next interview? Okay, cool. This is the ELCA saying we will walk alongside you, we will be with you, and that while there is a lot of uncertainty with the church right now, there is hope. There is some sort of answer that we have found that we are helping these people move to the next step. And being at Luther, I've seen so many people, not just out of college, but second careers with multiple kids. We talk all the time when we see each other a couple times a year. There is no way we'd be able to be up here right now if it weren't for the scholarships and the funding that we receive. Or I was in my job for 30 years, and I wouldn't be able to retire or stay on the path of retirement if I didn't get the scholarship. So it really does tell these people that they're not alone in this journey, and that the ELCA is walking alongside them.
Can I say one more thing?
Absolutely.
I think that the Fund for Leaders, one of the things that I've seen, at least in the last 5 or so years, is that they are affirming the gifts of atypical leaders and folks that are being called into not in traditional ministries and that are coming from different walks and stages in second career. And so if nothing else, to me, it tells us that we have a church that is committed to growing into something new too, and that we're willing to put the dollars behind being transformed.
Amen. Thank you. So as I said, you'll get to hear from Emily a little bit later because she's also on our World Hunger panel. But thank you so much to Sylvia, Emily, and Justin. And while you eat your desserts, which are already on the table, we are going to have a live performance for you tonight, a painting performance. So many of you probably know Stephanie Burke, but for some of you, this might be your first time experiencing what she does. But she has for many years been a live painter. How many years have you been doing this, Stephanie?
You know, COVID really shortens it by 2 years, so I'm going to say 8.
Okay, so for 8 years, she has been doing live painting, and so she's gonna, you're gonna get to experience that tonight. But right now, this is just her hobby because her actual day job is very similar to mine. She works on a team with the ELCA called the Regional Gift Planners. Who here has ever heard of a regional gift planner? Okay, a few people. Well, those of you who have not, you need to know about it. And Stephanie is, in fact, your regional gift planner. So this is a service that the ELCA Foundation provides for free. She will come and she will talk to you She'll walk you through what it might look like to do an estate plan. And there's no commitment. There's no, you don't have to do anything with you, but she will open up that conversation with you, talk about some options with you. And it's such a hopeful time because people usually walk away from that experience thinking, wow, I had no idea that if I plan this out and use all the tools at my disposal, I can actually give a very significant portion of my estate to the church and other institutions that mean a lot to me while still caring for my family and my friends and anyone else that I want to care for. So Stephanie is just always ready and happy to have those conversations. So after you experience this painting event, please talk to Stephanie tonight, whether it's about gift planning. She also has some prints, I think, that she wants to give away. And if you wanted to make a donation to support the ministry, that would be great as well. So be sure to see Stephanie later. And I think we're going to have some music while she works. Thanks.
My sorrow and dead in my sin, lost without hope with no place to begin. Your love made a way to let mercy come in. When death was arrested and my life began, and ash was redeemed, only beauty remains. My orphan heart was given a name, and my mourning grew quiet, my feet rose to dance. When death was arrested and my life began. Oh, your grace so free washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. And it's your endless love pouring down on us. You have made us new, now life begins with you. Released from my chains, I'm a prisoner no more. My shame was the ransom he faithfully bore. He canceled my debt and he called me his friend. When death was arrested and my life began. Oh, your grace so free washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. It's your endless love pouring down on us. You have made us new, now life begins with you. Our Savior displayed on a criminal's cross. Sin had rejoiced as though heaven had lost. But then Jesus arose with our freedom in hand. That's when death was arrested and my life began. Oh, your grace so free washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. Yes, God. And it's your endless love pouring down on us. of all the redeemed. Yes, we're free, free, forever, amen. When death was arrested and my life began. Oh, we're free, free, forever we're free. Come join the song of all the redeemed. Yes, we're free, free, forever, amen. When death was arrested and my life began. When death was arrested and my life began. That's when death was arrested and my life began.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, band. Hey, sound guy. All right. Thank you, Stephanie. It's really amazing to watch you work. And again, COVID has stopped so many things. It's great to see you painting again. And in the midst of all of us, there's just something about the ethereal nature of watching you do it live. This is really, really a blessing. So thank you. Thank you. And you guys were pretty good, too. Appreciated the band tonight. Thanks for coming out on a Friday. Our third and final panel tonight is about world hunger. We welcome to the stage Deacon Chandler Carricker. Come on up. The Reverend Emily Norris, long time. And Bishop Eaton. Just a fun story about Chandler on your way up. You got your binder. A fun story about Chandler on your way up here is Chandler and I were in high school together here in the Raleigh area in something called Teens Encounter Christ. Anybody else? Teens Encounter Christ? And I looked up to him. I thought he was just the coolest guy. Then didn't see him for 15 years. I showed up at Lutheran World Relief headquarters one day. And this guy comes out to shake my hand. He's like, hey, I think I know you. I'm like, yeah, I think I know you too. So Chandler was really one of the first people that I ever met who was working in world hunger, right? Like doing the church thing in the world and making a difference. I always thought that was just super cool. And I'm still looking up to you, man. I'm so glad that you're back in the Raleigh area. And it's really exciting to see what you're doing down at Camp Agape. All righty, let's start with our questions. Going to Chandler first. As a deacon, Chandler, you've had several interesting calls helping congregations address hunger and poverty, including working both for Lutheran World Relief and ELCA World Hunger. You're kind of an expert on this particular issue.
Yeah, I kind of bridged the divide. I brought us all together.
What was your experience like, and what do you wish people knew about world hunger and what we can do about it?
Yeah, working with congregations in those settings to educate them, to empower them, to give them a sense that there was something that they could do with their calling and with their faith in the world to address hunger. The one thing I learned about congregations was that every congregation wants to make a difference. Sometimes they're nervous about it. Sometimes they're not sure how to go about it. Sometimes they feel too small, but they want to make a difference because they know in their heart of hearts that that's what Jesus is calling them to do, is to make a difference. And so part of my joy in serving in educational and empowering roles in Lutheran World Relief and ELCA World Hunger, and even into my work in camping and outdoor ministry, is going to congregations and affirming that in them, but also helping to set them free, helping them to break down some of those ideas of how to go about this and making a difference, and a difference that witnesses to and testifies to a very Lord who associates himself with food. You know, I mean, like, Jesus doesn't just happen to like food. He is food. I mean, it's kind of hard not to think about hunger when we think about Jesus. So a couple of the things that really, in my time and my experience, I walked away with, and I always talk to congregations about meeting the needs of hunger in their community and their world. One of the things is it's a big deal. It's a big deal to look at hunger around us and want to do something about it. You know the phrase random acts of kindness. I'm going to state an unpopular opinion here. I really don't like that phrase. We need well-coordinated, big, intentional acts of kindness.
Amen.
And that's the sort of thing that hunger is afraid of us doing. Because hunger can deal with, the one-off, hunger can rebound from the one-off, food pantry we might do here and there. Hunger can rebound from those things if they feel like they're divided. But if we start to realize how we're doing things together and we're doing a big thing together, hunger's going to get scared and hunger's going to start to run. And it's big things here domestically and big things internationally. And doing big things internationally means not just doing it on our own. It means working with other faith bodies. It means working with governmental bodies. It means working with people who are in the places that we need to get to. And that's one of the great things about this work is you create relationships. And if Jesus is anything other than food, Jesus is also relationship. Because, that 3-in-1 thing. I still remember it from seminary a little bit. The other thing that I think about when I think about hunger is I think about how it is at the root of so many other realities in our world. It's at the root of abuse and violence in our world. When people are hungry, they're making poor decisions. They're looking out for themselves only. If we can address hunger, we can address the hopelessness in communities, both here and around the world. And the other thing, I think the last thing that I really walked away from these callings knowing about hunger and wanting to talk to congregations about is that addressing hunger is pretty different, actually, domestically compared to a lot of places where we work to address it internationally. Because of supply chains, because of what's available in communities, things like that. But one of the things where we can focus our energies together in a very similar way around the world and make a rocket launch, a moonshot difference in hunger is those first 1,000 days of life in the life of a child. So if Jesus isn't just food, isn't just relationship, Jesus also came as an infant. And we need to know that early infant need for high quality nutritional value in their lives. And that's something that is sadly lacking in our own country in the same ways that it is in others. We need to unite. We need to work together. We need to do big things. Because when we do big things and we worship a big God and a big Lord, hunger gets scared, hunger runs.
You see what I'm talking about? This guy's just inspiration on a stick, isn't he? Jeez. Just totally vibing with everything you said, Chandler. Thank you so much. It reminds me of my little brother's a middle school principal, and I'm still not over the fact that my little brother has a principal voice. But one of the things he talks about that's just whack is the way we talk about schools is how much free and reduced lunch they have, right? Like we measure schools and how well they're thriving by food or the lack thereof.
Yeah.
And just for you to say that it's at the root of so many other problems, absolutely. And, that it just makes you feel like there's something we can do as church folk to work on these problems. That's really beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Emily, you, in your congregation, you said, you don't pass the offering plate for the reasons that they need it for food. And so you spend a lot of your time rising and grinding and getting those grants. And you were a recipient, your congregation was a recipient of a hunger grant. That's true?
We were, yep.
Can you tell us something about that?
Yeah, so we were the recipient of one of the ELCA World Hunger Big Dream grants, which means that we got $150,000 from the ELCA to feed the people in our community, which is remarkable.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that awesome? So at the dwelling, we have 5 kind of core theological principles that we dig in on. The first is that housing doesn't equal worthiness, that wealth doesn't equal belovedness, that sobriety does not equal salvation, that trauma doesn't equal shame, and that hunger doesn't equal emptiness. And so when we talk about hunger in our community and our context, we are shifting the narrative around just because you may be hungry does not mean that you are empty. Right? And so then as we gather together as God's people throughout the week, on Sundays, we do a big community meal following worship every week where we're feeding about 175 to 200, sometimes 215 people every single week. But we're gathering at the table, right? And we're talking about how that's real food, real communion, meeting the lives of real people. And when we do that, we leave as fuller humans because we've gathered together. And the other piece of that I think is really important is that there's dignity in eating together. We are not a hunger feeding ministry. We are an eating ministry. And there is a difference in that. And so when we line up on Sundays to do our meal, you have folks that are unhoused, people that have just gotten out of jail the day before, people that live in $1 million homes that are standing on the same side of the table feeding their neighbors. And so your housing status or your addiction history or your incarceration record, all of those things do not negate your ability to serve. And so food is the thing that actually unites us as God's people and then sends us back out into the world, right? It's really the combination of word and service and word and sacrament gathered in a place and doing the thing. Part of our Big Dream grant was we're moving into a new building. By the end of this year, everybody is welcome to say a prayer. December 20th is the day, if you're able. But we're moving into a new space, and we were able to put $50,000 of our grant towards renovating a kitchen. Right now, our Minister of Meals, Eric, isn't that a cool title, too? Minister of Meals. He feeds our 200 people every week out of a galley kitchen. A galley kitchen. And we're expanding his kitchen to 4 times the size of that. And so when we do that, we will add midweek offerings. We also have added a pay-what-you-can food truck to our ministry, which means that we are inviting people from the rest of our community to offer what they can and what they want to eat, but folks from the dwelling can walk up and pay whatever they can. And we all get to eat the same food. It's all filled with the same dignity. It's not you walk up and you can get this cheaper bowl of rice. No, you can get the Winston Philly, right? And so that there's this communication that we are saying that all are worthy, and there's not a difference between have and have not, but you're all welcome. And so that big dream grant for us has just been life-giving because it communicates that we're not empty, even if we might have some pangs of hunger in our bellies.
Thank you, Emily. Last time I went to visit Winston-Salem, I just went to stop in with Emily and say, hey, what's going on? She said, I'm thinking about buying a food truck. And I said, of course you are, because, why not? But, part of the plan is when people come to do their mission trips with their high schoolers and stuff, right, y'all can feed them.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do service learning in the summers where the food truck does that. Eric cooks. But the other thing I forgot to mention is that the folks that are running our food truck are people that at the end of the day are going home and sleeping in their tents. And so we are able to offer stipends to folks that otherwise would not be able to have gainful employment. And not that it's going to be a lucrative hustle by any means, but it's at least something, right? And it's something people can put on their resumes. It's leadership positions. It's rising up leaders from the community and some equity and justice work. And then all of our branding, if you will, talks about hunger in our community, and it talks about ways that you can actually be a part of fixing the problem. Because as Chandler said, and I think Daniel said, it's all systemic and everything is connected. You can't talk about housing insecurity if you're not talking about hunger, and you can't talk about hunger if you're not talking about mental health, right? And the list goes on and on and on, and everything is interconnected. And so if we can start by educating people because they're just grabbing their napkin to eat their lunch and they can learn something, that's pretty low-hanging fruit that might actually make a difference.
Thank you, Emily. Bishop Eaton, a little bit off script, but you travel everywhere and just close. You travel everywhere. You see so much, and you spend so much time in meetings and doing all the things that you have to do. Stuff like this, being with these people tonight, hearing these stories, does this fire you up? Does this get you excited for the future of the church?
Of course it does, and I can see one of the better parts of my job is I get to see the church at work all across the United States, the Caribbean, and one congregation in Canada, where all those places. And I think at least 90% of our congregations have some kind of hunger ministry. So that we understand that food is important. The last parish I served was in Ashtabula, Ohio. Some of you are from Ohio, might have heard of it. Most people have no idea. But the whole school system qualified for free and reduced lunch, which is great during the school year. But in the summer, there's nothing. So our congregation became a site working with I think USDA. And then you'd have 11-year-old kids with a baby on their hip, not theirs, maybe a sibling, whatever. If they wanted breakfast and lunch, they had to come to one of these places. So it does affect your schooling, your ability to concentrate, your developmental progress. So I'm thrilled about this. But I also want to really emphasize that the ELCA has a different approach to hunger issues and food insecurity. And domestically as well as internationally, yes, we will do emergency feeding when that has to happen. And right now, I think people are not even aware of the crisis in Ethiopia and down that way, where I think 500,000 people are at risk of starving to death this year. It's not on the news very much. So yes, we'll make sure that happens. And Lutheran World Federation and Lutheran World Relief food trucks get through when other people can't. But then what do we do, what we're hearing from Emily and also from Chandler, what do we do so that these can become sustainable ministries, but also a sustainable life with dignity for people? Because they don't want handouts. They want to have their life back. And so that's a lot of work that we do with, I think, I don't know if you handed out literature. Did you bring literature, Melissa? Marissa, good. Yeah, lots of literature. But microloans are it's a huge game changer in a lot of places. And the payback rate on microloans is phenomenal. I think it's better than commercial banking. But then that gives people an opportunity to come with their resources and their intelligence and make something that wasn't there before. We do that. When you donate to ELCA World Hunger, both domestic and international, your money is going to that. It's not going to huge, expensive advertising budgets or a lot of staff overhead. We're doing, because we could do this, as Chandler said, we do this as church together. We can do this. And then another wonderful thing, I think in the last maybe 6 years or so, we really picked up on domestic hunger. And these big dream grants that's a new thing for us to do. But that, Mika McCracken, who used to be on staff, said, we're doing all this work about hunger, but what about the end user? What about the people who are actually experiencing food insecurity or hungry? Why aren't they on our planning teams? Mm-hmm. And so we switched that around, and also we've gone to networks because, I believe in the institutional church, but my desk is where things go to die. So if we can free people up just to go there and do these networks, and they're in the context, they know what needs to be done, and to be working with the people who are actually the end users, not as if they're somehow charity cases, but resources. Yes. So that's what you do. And we do, as Chandler mentioned, we do this in cooperation ecumenically, but also interreligiously. So we have an agreement with Islamic Relief that we will work together around the world. And then in 2016, we signed an agreement with the Vatican for Caritas. That's their wing of diaconal work. So we work together. Because if you're hungry, you really don't care if it's Muslim or Jewish or Christian or Catholic, rice or flour. You just want to take care of your family. So I'm proud of the work that we do. And to do it in these ways that we've heard now, where it's not simply, here's a handout, thank you very much, though keep working with your food pantries in your communities, that's really important. But then to make a sustainable difference that brings out and upholds the dignity of the folks we are serving and who are serving us. So yeah, here's another shameless commercial. Give generously.
So you're saying when I give money to the ELCA, it doesn't go to fund your private jet? That's not how things work in the ELCA? Because there are ministries out there that do that, right?
No, we have no private jet.
No private
And I don't
jet.
have status on anything but United, so. There's this wonderful
You got to go to
thing.
Chicago.
Well, that's great, but then, I go Delta or American, it's like this, you're a group 700, just get back there. No, it doesn't, we don't do that. The same thing that we do with the Yagams. You learn to live simply, and our folks do that, which is really, really critically important. So,
Amen. Final question, let's give this one to Chandler. We've heard a little bit of talk about accompaniment as a model. The Yagams brought it up. Sort of what Bishop Eaton's suggesting, right, is part of that too. Can you explain what accompaniment is and how that's different from the missionaries of old and how effective that is?
Yeah. I had the pleasure of in my brief amount of time I was working with the ELCA World Hunger, and we were all dispersed working over our computers, but to stare into my laptop and see Pastor Raphael, who is at the heart of accompaniment for the ELCA, talk to us about what accompaniment meant, and that was a pretty incredible experience. For me, as I've traveled to Nicaragua, as I traveled to Tanzania, as I traveled to countries that Lutherans are making things happen in, one of the first things is that we accompany by going and saying, what solutions do you have here in your community that we can help to magnify, to lift up even more, that our resources can come alongside? Because, some of the most brilliant people I've met are coffee farmers in Nicaragua, people working in sustainable agriculture in Tanzania or Uganda. And these are people who need the resources to make what they know how to do explode across their communities and make such a difference. And so we walk alongside what's already happening there. In the same way with missionaries, we talk so much more about we're not taking God there, we're meeting God there. With our hunger ministries and with building sustainable, we're not taking the brilliance that we have. We're going to meet the brilliance and the problem solving that exists in these countries, but unfortunately, due to systemic realities, sometimes don't find themselves with the funding to make those things happen. So we walk alongside those people, and in doing so, we meet and encounter Jesus together. Abundance is not just a fancy theological term, an idea. It's a reality. And we find abundance where scarcity wants us to believe that there's only scarcity. And so we do that by walking alongside each other in accompaniment.
Here's an accompaniment story where maybe we were too successful, but the church was. So the church in the Gambia, which is a country it's only as wide as the gunboats from the colonizing powers could shoot into on the other sides of the river. It's a very narrow country. It's mostly Muslim country. But then we're working with women there with microloans, and they are working on cashew production. Well, I thought cashews came in cans. But you can eat the fruit that they come from as well as the nut, and you can make it in squeezed juice. But what these Lutheran women found out, you can ferment that juice. And they're making some money there, and then some of the imams, because you're not supposed to drink if you're Muslim, are saying maybe don't do that so much. So
Very cool. Very cool. And just that we are not saviors when we show up somewhere, right? We are friends. We are people who walk alongside, right? We already have a savior, and it's not any of us. That's such a beautiful model. Let's give thanks for our panel here. All right. Yeah, you all can go sit back down. I'm inviting Pastor Wolfgang up here. If you don't know, Pastor Wolfgang and I work together here at Christ the King. I play good cop, and he plays bad cop. So he's here to be the closer this evening, which we're excited about. And before he does that, I just want to say thank you to our kitchen staff. Thank you for our meal this evening. And thank you to our tech team who showed up on a Friday night. Thanks, guys.
I want to say that I'm actually the good guy because I want you to do a good thing. And yes, I'm the closer because we fed you well and we plied you with wine and beer so that now, hopefully, you'll give back. I'm here to say we've heard about wonderful ministries, and we need to support those. Those ministries don't live unless we make them live. And so we are hoping that you're in a really generous mood after 3 glasses of wine, right? Or 2 beers or whatever, or a good meal, and you have a full stomach, but that you will be moved to make a gift to World Hunger, or to the Fund for Leaders, or for the Young Adults in Global Mission. Now, I want, or for all 3, I don't know about you, but maybe you have a favorite, and you really want to give to one over the others, and you're perfectly welcome to do that. Maybe you want to give to all 3 equally, and then talk to Marissa or talk to Stephanie, the regional gift planner and our painter in residence. If you want to talk about a bigger engagement, thinking about what might happen after you pass, and maybe put some of those things in your will. For me personally, I have a really soft spot in my heart for the Young Adults in Global Mission, because the way I came to this country was when I was 21, I was a volunteer. I was sent here by a volunteer agency called Action Reconciliation Services for Peace, very similar to the Jäger program. I was supposed to stay for 18 months. That was 45 years ago, just in case you were wondering. So I'm going to give to that, but I'm also going to give a little bit to World Hunger and to the ELCA Fund for Mission, just so they don't feel bad. And I'm hoping you'll do the same, right? There's multiple ways to give on your tables. You'll find these really handy little cards that you can fill out, and you can make a gift right now, right tonight. We take checks, right? Or you can make a pledge to be paid later on. There's a little envelope that's on your tables that you can use, and we'll come around and collect those. You can pledge online or give online, and if you're watching this on YouTube right now or on Facebook, you're welcome to do that. Just go to elca.org/give, and you'll find all the opportunities right there. We're going to have the band play in just a little while, so you have a little bit of time to pray about that and think about that and fill out your things. He's showing me something. What are you showing me? Oh, there's a QR code as well on your sheet there that's on your tables, and you can just use that. That's really easy to do as well. We're going to have the band play in just a minute and give you a minute to think about that and pray about that and fill out your paperwork. But before we do that, we do have 2 announcements. One is Stephanie, our painter, has brought 2 other paintings and the one that you saw her paint, and all 3 of them are for sale. Now, let me tell you, those paintings usually go for like $800 or more. And if you want one of those, you can buy one tonight. after Bishop Eaton's closing remarks and blessings, I'll be over there and I'll be ready to make a deal with you, to take one of those paintings home with you tonight. Right? Where do you get an opportunity like that? An original artwork to take home, to hang in your home, or to give to your church if you want to. But an original artwork in addition to a wonderful, wonderful evening like this. And the other announcement comes from Marissa. So Marissa, here you go.
So yes, and to be clear, she's donating them to the cause. So you're buying them and giving the money to a good cause. The other exciting news that I have is you all have a Global Farm Challenge insert. So if you scan that specific QR code, or if you write Global Farm Challenge on your checks, all of those gifts will be matched. So we have a match going on right now from 11 generous families who pulled together $655,000 to match as part of the Global Farm Challenge. And the reason that they did that, you heard Bishop Eaton reference this. There are right now, as of the beginning of October, 155 million people in the Horn of Africa who have found themselves in food crisis, emergency, or catastrophe. And it's Ethiopia, Madagascar, South Sudan, Somalia, and Yemen. And the ELCA is present in many of those places. Not so much in Somalia and Yemen, but we're present helping the countries that are receiving the people who are fleeing Somalia and Yemen. This is not being covered on the news, but it's something that you can leave here and you can tell others, my church is doing something about this. My church is present there. And so all of your gifts to World Hunger tonight are going to be matched dollar for dollar as part of the Global Farm Challenge. So if we raise $10,000 tonight for World Hunger, that $10,000 is going to be matched. It's really going to be $20,000 for ELCA World Hunger, and it's going to go to programs that are focused on farming, programs that are focused on really making sure that if we continue to invest in farmers, we know that year after year, these crises, there will still be crises, but they will be less because the communities will be resilient. They'll be prepared. They'll be more able to adapt to the changing climate. And that you all are a part of making that happen. And so that's a special opportunity that your gifts tonight to World Hunger can be a part of, which is pretty great. Amen. All right, take it away, band.
Standing here, not knowing how we'll get through this test, but holding on to faith you know best. Nothing can catch you by surprise. You've got this figured out, and you're watching us now. But when it looks as if we can't win, you wrap us in your arm and step in. And everything we need you supply. You've got this in control, and now we know that you made a way. When our backs were against the wall and it looked as if it was over, you made a way. And we're standing here only because you made a way. You made a way. looking back on where we come from. Because of you and nothing we've done to deserve the love and mercy you've shown. Your grace was strong enough to pick us up, and you made a way. When our backs were against the wall and it looked as if it was over, oh, you made a way. And we're standing here only because you made a way. You move mountains, you cause walls to fall with your power. You perform miracles. There is nothing that's impossible. And we're standing here only because you made a way. You move mountains, you cause walls to fall with your power. You perform miracles. Oh, there is nothing that's impossible. And we're standing here only because you made a way. You move mountains, you cause walls to fall with your power. You perform miracles. Oh, there is nothing that's impossible. And we're standing here only because you made a way. And we're standing here only because you made a way. And we're standing here only because you made a way. Oh, yeah, you made a way. You made a way. Abraham, you're the God of covenant, of faithful promises. And time again, you have proven that you do just what you say. Though the storms may come and the winds may blow, I'll remain steadfast and let my heart learn when you speak a word, it will come to pass. Great is your faithfulness to me. Great is your faithfulness to me. From the rising sun till the setting same, I will praise your name. Great is your faithfulness to me. Oh, seasons change, you remain the same. God from age to age, though the earth may pass away, Your word remains the same, yeah. Your history can prove there's nothing you can't do. You're faithful and true. Though the storms may come and the winds may blow, I'll remain steadfast and let my heart learn when you speak a word, it will come to pass. Great is your faithfulness to me, and whoa, great is your faithfulness to me. From the rising sun till the setting same, I will praise your name. Great is your faithfulness to me.
I put my faith in Jesus, my anchor to the ground, my hope and firm foundation. He'll never let me down. I put my faith in Jesus, my anchor to the ground, my hope and firm foundation. He'll never let me down.
Great is your faithfulness to me, and whoa, great is your faithfulness to me. From the rising sun to the setting same, I will praise your name. Great is your faithfulness to me.
Nice. You guys are awesome.
Thank you all so much for coming tonight. Thank you to Christ the King, our host. Big round of applause. We'll have just some final remarks from Bishop Eaton, and she will give us the benediction. Thank you again so much for your time. If I can be of any help, please let me know on the way out, and we can talk about how to tell the story tonight in your congregations. There's lots of literature for you to pick up. And Sandra would like you to take glasses and koozies and all of those things with you as a parting gift.
So Pastor Hertzlein wants to get rid of the tchotchkes from Bishop Smith's 60th birthday, my 65th, and Sandra's 70th. So I'm glad we could finally celebrate, and it's in spring, so I don't know where. So I won't say I'll be short because I am, but I'll be brief. I think I've said that Lutherans, we are the best kept secret from ourselves. My guess is you didn't really know that all this stuff was going on, and much, much more across this church. And as we heard from Pastor Pugh, that in fact we can do more together than we can do separately. And that's our baptismal relationship. And Chandler, Deacon Chandler also said the same thing. So tell people about this. It's not bragging if it's telling the truth. And how will people know how either to serve or to receive service if they don't know who we are, what we're doing? And don't take Lutheran out of the name. Just stop that. Stop. Makes me crazy. we work with other Lutherans in the Al-Zatari refugee camp in Jordan, which serves mostly Syrian Muslim refugees. And we run the Lutheran Oasis Center. All of the Syrian Muslims know what Lutheran is because they can go there for respite, for training, for school for their kids, for psychosocial services for the trauma that they've all been through. So, you know, come on, Lutherans. You know, how do you know a really bold Lutheran? She'll stare at your shoes when she's talking. So, not original to me. So anyways, thank you so much for coming out here, for our Yagams past and hopefully some more present, for the work that Emily's doing at the dwelling, and we're doing that there. We're there through Emily and her people, and also the work that we're doing for World Hunger and Fund for Leaders. It's just critically important. And I hope you filled out your I'm going to check at the door to see how many. No, seriously, this is we're an incredibly generous church. So just a quick glimpse at the generosity. Since the war began in Ukraine, we, the ELCA folks, have given over $15 million to do relief work with the churches around the countries surrounding Ukraine. That fast, we're able to do this. God is a God of abundance, and we've got a lot more than we think we have. So, okay, here. Oh, I'm in the South. Amen. That's right. Give me a witness. That's right. So now please receive the benediction. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you with favor and give you peace. Amen. And Wolfgang is over here.